right, so I guess we're jumping right into game number 1 now between, let's see, our blue Protoss down to the bottom left-hand corner. Typreal, he's spawning as our blue Protoss, his opponent in the top right-hand corner. From Team Alternate Attacks is the one and only Darkforce. He is our red Zerg player. Is it not letting you click? Okay, there we go.
There it is.
Awesome.
All right, so we've got a Zerg versus Protoss here to start the night off, or excuse me, to close the night off, because this is going to be our last series. Map is going to be Zelnaga Caverns. It's a classic map, once again, for Zerg versus Protoss. I really feel like it can swing either way. Protoss obviously having a little bit harder time securing the natural, as we saw in the last game. What was it, Desro? You had a horrible time getting the natural expansion up against a Zerg. But once you get into the late game, I think that Protoss has a couple of things going for them, namely the closed-off choke right next to the Zelnaga Towers. So we'll have to see how this is going to play out. Is it going to be a quick one? Is it going to be a long one? Typically, as a Zerg, I like to end Protoss days right away if I spawn on Zelnaga Caverns.
All right, so let's see. Let's take a look here. And, Frank always calls this the Protoss graveyard, though. So
I don't know what he's thinking. Maybe in the early game. Maybe in the early game. I don't know about the late game, though.
Yeah, well, you'll have to take it up with him. I think we'll have to have a battle on this map. So
that would be fun, man.
You guys just battle each other so that we can get a larger sample size. You guys just battle each other about 500 times, and we'll see who wins the most.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And, of course, not taking skill set into account whatsoever.
No. The
perfect way to balance the map.
Purely race.
Me versus
Purely
Frank
race.
Every single day. Every single time.
Get it done. Get it done.
That's how we balance maps here at the IPL, guys.
And speaking of cool maps, if you guys are map makers, prospective map makers, and we're actually looking to start including maps into our map rotation, into tournament rotation. So we are actually doing a map maker tournament. Basically what happens is you can find out details on teamliquid.net. We're having people send in maps to us, and the top 5 maps will be placed into a tournament that we will be putting online. That tournament will be for $500 in prizes altogether, be hosted through our partners over at Playhem. And the 5 maps that we select, their map makers receive a bunch of swag from IPL and a little bit of hardware as well. And then the top 2 maps that we actually will put into our tournament rotation, once the tournament is done, we will actually award a GTX 560 graphics card on top of some additional swag and some pretty cool prizes. So hope you guys will check that out.
It's pretty cool stuff happening here at the IPL.
Indeed.
All right, we've got a cybernetics core here now beginning to warp in the upgrade for Warp Gate. So we could have, actually it's pretty common to get that Warp Gate technology out. We'll have to see which way Real's going to go with this. He has 2 gases right now, so once again, looking very much like Desro's build, except this time investing heavily into the gas in the beginning. Mm-hmm. Could be 3-gate expand with sentries. It could even be 1-gate with a lot of sentry support in the beginning as well.
I think that's smarter given this map.
Stargate.
Okay, anyway, well, that's what he was building up the gas for. But even if he had just taken the... Even if he had just taken the time to go ahead and just produce more sentries, I think that's safer here. Yeah. You need the greater units, not just the quicker expansion on this map. As we saw what happened to Desro, he's flooded with Zerglings because he tried to save a little bit more minerals and put out that expansion just a bit earlier to hit that economic advantage, and clearly he was just overrun.
Yeah. This is certainly a different take to Zerg versus Protoss versus Zerg. 1 base Stargate here with 2 gateways coming up. Now, depending on how many gateways Real throws down, if he throws down a 3rd gate, then he certainly could be very aggressive off of 1 base. If he sticks with 2 gate, then I wonder if he's just going to get an early Void Ray for an expansion, of course, to harass the Overlords and move them out of sight. He is chrono boosting that initial Stargate right now for a single Void Ray. And we'll have to see if he's going to commit to just killing off Overlords and controlling the map, or is he going to move across and do some damage?
That is the question at the moment. Darkforce, on the other hand, though, he's just droning up pretty well. His economy looks good at this stage in the game. There's Evolution Chamber. There's something a little bit different, so we'll see if he tries to hit +1 melee attacks. Or there's the Roach Horn following right behind that as well.
Well, he could just be sticking to Lair for a long time, getting the Evolution Chamber for upgrades, but he could also be realizing that this is pretty peculiar from the Protoss player. Not that many sentries, not that many ground forces, and already a pylon in the low ground, so he probably realizes at this point that a lot of gas was invested into a Stargate.
Oh, there's the Spore Crawlers coming up, and I think he actually spotted the Void Rays. It was making its way out because that Zergling was running across the Zelnaga Tower at just the right time. So, one way or another, the knowledge of this is going to be... Yeah.
Well, the Void Ray now actually not going to commit itself into the main. I think it was going Overlord hunting here. I don't know how many Overlords it gotten already, but it does have one kill. That could have been a Zergling, however. It's going to make its way over to the natural. Meanwhile, Overlord placement on the left here to spot any additional air forces coming out. Zerglings scrambling around the middle of the map, with Real getting a robotics facility to top off the Nexus.
And here comes the Void Ray, but double Queens at every expansion.
Yeah, should be well defended.
Spore Crawlers as well. Layer Tech just about to finish up. Yeah, it's going to actually be pretty difficult for Real to do anything here. And so Real being moved away at the moment, but he is starting to slide over to a +1 weapon plus robotics facility build as well. But that Stargate has not paid off for him in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it really hasn't. At the very least, in one way, I guess you could say in the indirect damage it's done, it's forced Darkforce to build a lot of Spore Crawlers, which of course sacrifices drones, forced them to produce a lot of Queens. I am a big favorite of having extra Queens, so I don't know how much of a quote-unquote damage that really is.
Right.
But Real's going to be flying across the map with that single Void Ray. Still hasn't really committed anything else out of the Stargate. Now a Phoenix on the way. So I guess he's going to complement the Void Ray with the Phoenix, but gosh, I feel like his ground army is really, really small right now.
Already we have Groove Spines coming up with some Hydralisks, though, and yeah, his ground force is going to be small. Not only that, but the ground force that he has up is very susceptible to Hydralisk, just naturally. And here comes the Void Ray and Phoenix actually making their way in over at the right-hand side. The Void Ray manages to get a kill. It knocks off a Zergling.
That's 2 kills now, actually.
Ooh, fancy it.
Well, it's going to be able to scout the Gold Rocks being attacked by Zerglings as well. But a Hydralisk has revealed itself now on the Void Ray. One Hydra will not be able to kill a Void Ray.
But it is enough to drive it off, because he probably knows there's more behind. The Phoenix was doing some scouting around the map. Not sure where it's at now.
And immediately upon seeing the Hydralisk cat, so he's going to go right into a support bay to get Colossus out. I really like that decision, but I feel like he may be vulnerable in this window when he doesn't have a Colossus out to a Hydraling bust.
Yeah.
And there's actually quite a few Hydras on the way. The muscular augments for the... Excuse me, that's not muscular augments. The upgrade for range is now completed. Muscular augments is the speed upgrade in Heart of the Swarm.
Yes.
But Darkforce is pushing out right now with a lot of Hydras and a lot of Lings, and the Colossi aren't quite out yet. This is a very good timing window to hit.
And, oh god, the Void Ray is very close to getting picked off, but it does move away.
Wow, trap the Zerglings inside.
That's a lot of damage being suffered by Darkforce, but he is producing a ton of units and putting up his gold at the same time. Those Hydras still moved in. A little surprised those still made their way up without the reinforcements of the Zerglings.
Yeah, Darkforce here needs to be careful. The Hydras are not cheap here. You don't really want to lose them. I'm surprised he did move in and left himself susceptible to force fields without additional reinforcements. But you know what? Kudos to Real for holding that Hydra push off, because that was a timing window where he was susceptible to Hydralisks without Colossus support.
Yeah, certainly. And there's another 2 gateways being added in now. That gold is not up, so now is Real's chance to be able to really build up a force that's going to be able to take on Darkforce head on and move in before that gold gets up and running, because as soon as that does, that timing window will eventually start to disappear, as Darkforce is going to skyrocket ahead in supply.
I don't know if Real's actually going to go ahead and go for a timing window attack here. I really feel like he's going to sit back and get enough Colossus out to maybe poke for the third. But I don't know if he's going to commit to an attack at the gold. I think he's going to be content to let Darkforce get the gold expansion for now. Simply because he knows all the creep spread is out there, all the forces are out there. I think as a Protoss player, he's going to try to get all his Colossi out and then get the expansion.
Certainly, and Colossus number 2 is coming up, and that's going to hit just before Thermal Lance does as well. And it looks like it's just Colossus Void Ray production. Second Stargate
Perfect
being added.
Death Ball setup, man.
Yeah, so he is going to Void Ray wall on top of the amount of Colossi. He is fine with the gateway backbone that he has existing. It's just going to be a few high-energy force fields, or sentries, just to drop down a bunch of force fields.
Yeah, and it looks like Real is going to go ahead and just play very passively. He's going to try to get all the Colossi he can and get the Void Rays out. It's the perfect setup for the Protoss Death Ball, which Zergs can have a hard time dealing with. So yeah, right now Real's going to try to get the third expansion up. Now, as a Zerg player, what can Darkforce do to deal with that Death Ball when the battle eventually happens? He's got a lot of Roaches and Hydras, which unfortunately, I don't think they do very well against Death Ball units at all. I think he needs to get Yeah, I think he needs to get either mass mutas or corruptors. Corruptors have a hard time dealing with void rays, though.
Roachling Corruptor, though, is... I'm sorry, not Roachling Corruptor. Roach Hydra Corruptor, I apologize. This game is actually a bit of a blast from the past.
Yeah, it really is.
As we did kind of naturally move into that Colossus Void Ray composition for Real. And
He is going to make Corruptors.
Yeah, and there's +1 weapons for the air coming up now for Real as well.
I really feel like Infestors are the way to deal with Deathball. I'm surprised he didn't get an Infestation Pit up. He's just going to totally rely on ground forces here, and we'll just have to see if his micro is on point. Now, this is the part where it is a little hard, I feel like, for Zergs to combat Protoss late game on this map because it's so closed off at the Xel'Naga Towers, and that's where the battle is typically going to happen. Force fields are going to be very good against that. Colossus Rays are going to be very good when the units are bunched up as well. I don't know, man. We'll have to see.
Yeah, but Darkforce is pulling ahead quite far in supply.
Real's being really aggressive here. I don't know about pushing out right now.
And you figured he'd wait for another Colossus or two, or probably just for a double Stargate to start kicking in. And +1 weapons on his air.
Yeah, I'd wait for all those upgrades. I'd wait for him to be at about 170 supply. This is really bold on his part, and I feel like this is a perfect opportunity for Darkforce to push in. But no, the Force Field's going to push that away. And this is where you see the power of that Death Ball really into effect.
And denying a little bit of gas there. Oh, we have a run by down at the bottom right-hand corner. A bunch of Lings are making their way in, and they did kill one probe and a photon cannon, but the big attack is still coming here. It looks like Darkforce.
Total counterattack here from Darkforce. But is it going to pull Real back? Real is going to pull back here. Real opting not to go for a base race situation, deciding to pull back, and now the travel time is what's really going to hurt him as he's got to take all this time to pull back to defend the Nexus, and in that time, Darkforce can snipe it and pull away. Beautiful play.
And let's see here if Real's going to have enough to be able to push everything away in a second as that Nexus is coming up as fast as possible. That significantly sets back Real, especially because he's almost mined out of his main. And Void Ray Brawl going to start advancing. Darkforce doesn't want to attack quite yet. He is almost maxed, and he's going to throw in a few Zerglings into the mix.
I really like that.
Yeah, because the Colossus count is pretty low, and it's at least going to buy time for the rest of the units, and the Corruptors again in position.
Oh, goodness. Beautiful force fields coming down right here, and the Death Ball is going to stand strong. I really like the addition of the Zerglings here, Kevin. I mean, Zerglings, especially if they get that Adrenal Gland upgraded in the Hive level, are pretty good against Death Ball units. Just overwhelm the ground forces, even with Colossus in the play. But Real is fighting an uphill battle right now, man. He's got to rebuild that Nexus. He's only on 2 base right now. The Zerg player is approaching 4. That Roach Hydra army is getting pretty large, and now more Roaches being dispatched down south. That is going to be enough Roaches to deal with the cannons, but I think Real will warp in some more units to help defend.
I hope so. Looks like he's just going to run it from behind. I didn't know if he was just going to try and attack or what, but he does trap quite a few Roaches, and that's actually a pretty significant portion of the force that is killed. All the while, he is slowly continuing to build up his forces. Looks like those last 2 Roaches are going to go down, but Darkforce starting to make his presence known on the lower half of the map.
That's a lot of Corruptors on the field right now. Real is really going to have to wait, I feel, until his army gets a little bit bigger. He's only at 160 supply right now. His Void Ray count, they do have +1 weapons. That's actually quite a few Void Rays as well. Yeah, so this battle could really swing either way. We're just going to have to wait and see.
And here it is. Looks like the Corruptors are jumping over on the right-hand side, and they one-shot the first Colossus. Oh my god, they actually one-shot the second one and get a third as well.
Wow.
So already they have done a significant amount of damage, and it looks like the Hydras are going to start working their way up. The Colossus cover is completely gone, and once that disappears, now Darkforce is actually in an incredible position.
Yeah, the Colossus are all gone, and now there's nothing to really deal with the outstanding amount of ground forces from Darkforce. Darkforce is going to rock and roll this army back in time, and there is Real with the GG.
So GG is called. Darkforce goes up 1-0 in the set.